afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another great episode of Basscast Radio. I am your host, Brian Carter. Guys, back with us tonight. We got the full team back with us in the house. Bass Geek, for you guys who are watching on YouTube. Bass Geek, the YouTube phenom.
Oh, God.
And my boy Thomas Aarons with Fishing the DMV. Guys, we got a special guest, Mr. Brian Post. For all you guys know, it's called Be Post, everybody. Brian, I went to a private school that had 30 kids, and 6 kids were named Brian. So guess what? I don't even remember what my first name was. I know what my last name was because that's how you had to get everybody. You just called them by their last name. So B, you're probably about my age. I'm 51, Geeks. I think about 50, and there's a lot of Brians back then that were named. I'm not sure why, but there's a big name back in the day.
Ours was in elementary school. It was Matt. We had Matt L and Matt J and Matt B and Matt. Yeah. Ours was
Oh,
Matt.
wow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So welcome to this show.
Thank you.
Guys, let's get this thing going. Tonight, we're going to talk about what's happening in the world of tournament bass fishing. You guys all know Brian fishes the Open series, Bassmaster Opens. We're going to dive into that because you're going to have to up your game in 2025 in the Open series because all them boys from Major League Fishing are coming in, the ones that got cut. So it's going to be a heck of a lineup 2025 for the Bassmaster Opens. But I got to share one quick thing. I had a post that went viral this weekend. First one ever.
Look at you.
Yes. It was a shared post. I ain't gonna lie, is from another gentleman we had on the show. And we had a cheating scandal, another cheating scandal. And it's sitting at 1.8 million views. Wow. And thank you guys who follow. Yes, thank you. I owe no credit except for being like jumping on it and scanning social media. But we gained 8,000 followers from this post in 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
We're sitting at almost 25,000 followers, something I thought would never happen in my whole entire life. I mean, I've been sitting at like 15 at the beginning of the year. We finally got to 18, and then we went to we're right at 25 right now. I think we're like 100 away. And probably by the time this comes out, we should be over 25,000. So thank you guys. If this is the first time you've ever listened to Basscast Radio, really appreciate you. Welcome to the show. We're going to try and make it a good one for you guys. But you guys all know last week Geek was on the road. Geek was a co-host in his first ever live show. I don't know how he did it and I don't know how Thomas does it. I did 2 shows back to back one time and it killed me. So to talk for 8 hours, the man's a champ right there. Give us a quick look at this thing real quick and, maybe something that you learned from hosting your very first event, brother.
In
less than 5 minutes.
First off, if you haven't heard about it, it was the Onyx Champions Invitational. It was really a unique event. I think they're leaning toward doing it again next year. They invited some of the best BASS, elites, Jordan Lee, Kyle Welcher, and some of the best MLF guys. You had Opens, Invitationals, Toyotas, females, 5 golden tickets from, just random draw guys who get a chance to go out and play against Tiger Woods, of our sport. So that's pretty impressive. Again, Ionic, it was no entry fee. Ionic Batteries put it on, paid for everything. You can still go out and watch it and critique me on fix.tv. And, it was a good time, man. It was my first time doing that. I've emceed a tournament before. And I'll give a big shout out to Brian with the Big Bass Bash. Watching him MC a tournament, I got to learn a lot, from that perspective. He's very good at it. He did the emceeing of, the weigh-in. And that's probably what I learned is how to get them up, get them on stage, get them, to talk, and then get them the heck off the stage. So,
yeah.
But it was really fun. It was a good experience. I don't know that it's something that like I ever see in my future of me doing. You know, I just call myself a poor man's fat cat, you know, but you know, maybe I'm the fatter cat now, so it's technically I'm bigger
Come
than he.
on now, geek. All right, guys, that was Brad Staylor, by the way. It was another B. It was Brad Staylor, geek. And
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
know, you guys know he does host some stuff for English Choice. English Choice next year is going to be an interesting schedule. Everybody, it's out by now. If you haven't taken a look, please do so. But Brad has a big influence and have a bigger influence in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you guys, like I said, head on out and head on over to Fix TV. Is that phyxtv.com
It is
or
phyx.tv.
.tv? So head on over, check it out. Guys, by the way, you've heard about them on the show. We've talked about them a lot. They do all the NPFL tournaments. They do
They
a
do.
great job. I kind of like it because, they've got a lot of cameras on. I mean, I know during the NPFL, they'll have like the main camera. And they
Yeah.
did it on this tournament as well, but they'll have 5 cameras where you don't hear nothing but the angler talking to himself,
Yep.
fishing. And it's like you're really in there in a boat. I don't, I'm like sometimes in NASCAR, I don't really need to hear everybody talk about them going around and around circles. You know what I'm saying? So it's really cool.
You need to hear me talk about them, Brian.
Oh, God.
You need to hear me.
So it's really cool just to hear the anglers themselves. So, all right, Thomas, what is happening, my brother, man?
I had a video do extremely well. I think we had over 600 downloads on Apple Podcast in 2 days, and I didn't think it was going to go viral. It was a Patreon requested where I went through the Alabama bass document that they're proposing for the Coosa Channel Lakes. And because if you guys don't know, I'm on the board for black bass for Maryland. So any laws that get passed in Maryland for the Potomac, we're on the board for. I'm talked to so many scientists. And so for the Patreon, I just went through it line by line, the article, and said, like, well, here's some issues here, 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 and here. And I decided to post it, and it shot off like a rocket. And it's interesting because it's not clickbaity. It's just going through it. And what I did find out is it was written by a student. It is actually not the official paper that was published. I got a call from a person in Alabama saying, like, yeah, this is why it doesn't seem correct. It's because it was a student's paper that got pushed.
Wow.
So fun things going on there.
That's awesome. Yeah, like I said before the show started, it's been the season ended, guys, and since then we want to talk about. They make a drink called the Drama Mama. That's what it has been, the Drama Mama drink, and I think a lot of people are drinking it. So I mean, but B Post, welcome to Basscast Radio. First of all, thank you for reaching out. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate that, guys. If you want to reach out and be on the show, we'd love to have you. So do what B did. We apologize that we just get kind of busy in our day-to-day lives, bass fishing lives, that is. And we forget about things, and people reach out and say, let's do it. So here we are. Brian, guys, he fishes the Bassmaster Opens. I know you were EQ qualifier last year.
Yep.
And you've been doing it for quite a while. But give everybody out there just a little info back page about Brian Post and how you get the fishing bug, brother.
So I grew up everything outdoors with my dad and my grandpa and everything like that. We had a cabin up north, northern Wisconsin. Always go up there fishing in the summertime. We fished for whatever. We had a tin boat, tiller motor. If it bit, we caught it, right? Well, my parents' neighbor up the road, all he did was bass fish. He never tournament fished, but that's all he did was chase bass. So if my dad had to work on a Saturday, I'd pedal my bike up the road 3 o'clock in the morning and hop in with him. And I love, the skill that it takes, the flipping, the pitching, the different techniques and the whole kind of man versus beast kind of thing. And then it was, crepes, I was probably 22 years old. And there was a local tackle shop in town that started a Wednesday night division. And I said, holy crap, like you can actually compete for money in fishing tournaments? I didn't even know it was a thing. I mean, I watched Bassmasters growing up, member and all that stuff, but like, oh, so it started there. That was 2004. And it just literally snowballed out of control to whatever I can get my hands on. I love to compete. I'm ultra competitive. And I want to fish anything and everything I can. And done pretty good locally. And there was a group of 4 of us buddies that we fished together, and we traveled some between Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin. And we always talked about taking that next step and trying the opens, and the other 3 guys, life got in the way, and they still fish locally. But I said, my wife's like, "You're going to do it. We're going to figure it out. You're going to do it."
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was 2020. I fished 4 opens in 2020, and she unleashed the beast, and now it's all I think about. Even though I have to work every day, it's all I think about.
Also, if you guys don't know, Brian's a contractor, if I remember correctly. I read that. So I know around here, and I don't know what's going up there, but in the last 5 years, a mile from my house, I think 20 houses have been built in the last 5 years. So it's got to be booming. But
I don't understand why or how the prices. Nothing's really come back down from COVID. Our interest rates were high, but yeah, I've got 9 guys going 40+ hours a week and multiple projects going on, and it's a blessing. I'll take it. I'm busier than I want to be, but I'll take it.
That is awesome right there. Brian, we've had Dave Miller on before a couple of times, really. Mm-hmm. What has it been like for you making that transition from the northern lakes to the southern lakes?
You guys don't have any grass on a lot of your lakes.
No, they kill it all. The homeowners kill it. Tell him, Thomas.
So up here, if you either fish the grass edges or you idle around until you find a rock pile. If you find a rock pile in the lake, you're golden. Well, I've spent a lot of time idling, and it all looks the same. And during practice, and then go tournament day, and there's 3 guys sitting on that spot. I'm like, well, what the heck? What did I miss? Like, it's definitely a transition. It's taking a little bit of getting used to.
Can you compare and contrast the pressure that you receive on your local lakes compared to down here? Is it as bad as people say it is?
So our local chain, our biggest lake in our chain is like 9,000 acres. And then the next one's like 4,000, then like 2,000. And that's where the majority of our local tournaments take place. And we never get anything over maybe 50, 55 boats. And we'd always complain, buddies, oh my God, the pressure, this is insane. The lake can't handle it. And then I go down south. I made my second ever open in 2020. I made a top 10 on Sam Rayburn. There was 12. There was 12 open anglers on the water that day, but there was 1,100 tournament anglers on Rayburn. I came home. I told my buddies, I'm never going to complain about pressure again. This is we have it easy up here compared to what
it's so relative, isn't it? Because this is a conversation we have about South Holston or Lake Gann about holding a BFL, and people are like, oh, it's not big enough. It has to be 100,000 acres. It's like guys up north, like Ohio and India, like they fish out of ponds. It's all relative, that pressure.
Yep, it is. You're absolutely right. It is very relative. It's crazy the difference. You get like Rayburn's 115,000 acres. And the amount of tournaments that go on there on a daily basis on every weekend, that's nothing compared to what we've got.
Did you feel like when you started to go to like the Rayburns for the first time, you were trying to plug and play what breaded your butter in the past? Or did you feel like you had to get out of your comfort zone and kind of learn more of regional styles?
Yeah. It's been, you can get very carried away going, because you do your homework, right? You do your Google Earth, you look up tournament results and history from what it takes that time of year. You watch some YouTube guys, some different channels on what they're doing, and you can go too far down the rabbit hole and completely get away from what you know and what you're comfortable with doing. During a tournament or during a 3-4 day practice period is not the time to learn a new technique on a lake you've never been to. So, it's kind of, but you have to pay attention to that stuff because you have to understand it. And then the best I've found is to try to integrate that with what I already know how to do. But yeah, you get some of those lakes like Rayburn when the grass was good. I'm like, I'm gonna go dunk. We call it dunking, just 8 to 10 foot weed edge, just flipping tubes, jigs, draws, whatever. Yeah, it doesn't really work down there.
Really interesting.
You can go a long ways without finding them.
Wow.
I think. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say that's why I'm such a horrible tournament angler, is because I've always got 92 rods on the deck of my boat, and I'm like, well, if they're biting this, let me try these other 32 lures, and that's not the way to go. But I found out that's not the way you do things.
Right, it's not, and I've kind of come. I've been doing the opens for 4 years now. It was my 5th season, but I've kind of got my core baits that I've always been comfortable with and techniques, and maybe change something minute within that and not completely change the process of what I'm doing and try to get comfortable and then build on it from there. But there's been days at the end of practice, and I've got both rod buckles are full on the front and the coiling seat's full. And there's still a dozen rods laying around somewhere, and I don't have a clue what's going on.
How far? This has always been an interesting question to me. When Mille Lacs got blown open by Bass way back when, there are so many cool hidden gems in the North Dakotas, up in Minnesota, even up in Maine, that could hold an Open or a Classic. Do you think as pressure down south increases, they'll start looking north more and more for different fisheries to go to?
The issue, potentially, two issues that we have is, so down south, like when I first started tournament fishing, we go down south, like Kentucky Lake. We went in, we checked in a hotel, and the lady says, "Oh, what are you guys here for?" We're like, "Oh, we're for our weekend championship." She's like, "Oh, awesome. Here's a 10% discount. We appreciate it." I've had guys in Wisconsin at the boat ramp and one say, "What are you guys here for?" "Oh, we just got a 20-boat club tournament." "Oh, well, if I'd known you SOBs were going to be here, I'd have brought my shotgun."
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
wow.
different. So that's a slightly, we're the bad guys up north because we're bass fishermen, right? And then the other issue you're going to run to is infrastructure. There are dozens of those hidden gems. We have that are 10,000 acres. The boat launch handles like 12 boats or 12 trucks of trailers. We don't have the landings and the infrastructure for them. And then also a lot of those smaller towns around there aren't willing to, everybody gets paid, Bass, MLF, everybody. If they're coming to town, that the municipality, that Board Chamber of Commerce is writing them a hefty check to get them to come. So you're going to run into issue with that somewhat too. So Leech Lake was an example of, and I talked to Hank about that. And he said that was a 5-year process to get Leech Lake.
Wow.
To get everything working with the DNR, because the Minnesota DNR is very stringent. And that one had enough landings throughout the lake that, you could put in different places, and that one worked pretty good. So that one was I was very impressed. It was very well run for, first time up north. So in the turnout, that was the best crowd we had all year.
Wow. That's just so strange to me, because I am down here. I haven't had the opportunity to do a lot of fishing up north. And, it's, to me, that's just so, because I go to South Holston. South Holston's like a little over 7,500 acres. And they're having 250 boat tournament on it. And then out of 2 other boat ramps, there's 250 boat tournaments on it on one Saturday, and it'll run through that all spring long, because it's one of the best southern smallmouth fisheries probably in the country. And so it blows my mind, because the people around there, it is an infrastructure in and of itself. The amount of bass anglers and tournaments that come and fish that lake. So it really is odd to me, that
walleyes and muskies, that's what everybody chases here. I was on Lake Wisconsin's about an hour north of us. Wisconsin River comes down and makes about a 10,000 acre lake, real shallow fishery. If you're not grinding mud year round, you're fishing too deep. Wow. And I was there beginning of October with a buddy on a Saturday. There was 20 boats on the water. We're the only guys bass fishing. 49-degree water. We caught over 65 fish in 8 hours.
You mentioned so many interesting things about like how you would flip back home, if you're not in the mud, but like these techniques are so super duper regional. And as someone that just covers a small region of the country, there are techniques up on the Potomac that no one knows about because it's not one on a Toledo Bend. And it's interesting when we've had conversations in the past on this show about like trends in the market. It's basically wherever the elites go is the trend. And if whatever you're doing up north or in California, unless it gets a light shine on it, guys, that's not going to be shown.
Well, that's a perfect example is the Demiki rig. To this day, I still hear there's 2 different techniques that really kind of, to me, kind of grew in my area, the Watauga, South Holston, Cherokee area, and that's the Demiki rig, which was a vertical drop presentation. And then we used to tightline, which was what I always call Simple Man's float and fly, because, you didn't have to have the float and the 12-foot rod and, all that, and let it pendulum back. You just threw it out there and went, like that. And, that's kind of what I always say, those things, the Demiki rig, I remember when the elites came to Cherokee, and I think at that time, I think Jacob Wheeler was like a rookie that year, and he was the one that won it, and the other kid from Alabama had led it the whole time, but nobody had really ever kind of spoke about or seen that technique, other than like Ott Defoe, who is from around here, and. Then with the advent of live scope, you see how that's just, exploded and took on a life of its own. And, so that's a perfect example of those sort of regional techniques because, I'm already on the lake catching smallmouth that are 65 feet deep and, chasing alewives, which is a herring style, on South Holston. So, and as we go in, they'll get 80 feet, 85 feet deep in those balls of shad.
That's crazy. Usually if I'm deeper than 10 foot, I'm lost.
I hate it.
Wow.
I mean, listen, take a 1 ounce jig head with a 3 ounce. And now, people think, oh, they're just sitting there because they're saying, no, it's 45-degree water. And they're like this. And you've got to drop that thing down and you got to go, okay. And then they're coming at it and you're like, oh, I got them just no. Then they turned around because of one of them out. And you're like, and it takes 5 minutes to reel it up. You're like, okay, come on. I'm going to get back over there. I hate it.
We do that deep through the ice perch fishing for yellow perch.
Yeah, it basically is ice fish.
We'd have a big perch weight. We'd make them out of coat hangers. And then in the middle of it, we would put a 1 inch or 3/4 diameter washer because past 60 feet, the Vexilar wouldn't pick up just the jig. So you tie that on, and then you tie about an 8-inch piece of line with a little glowing neon ice fishing jig on there. Yeah, we dropped 80, 90 feet. Same thing, and you only got a 24-inch rod, so you set the hook and reel as fast as you can.
It's basically ice fishing on soft water. That's what we call it. So,
Brian, go ahead. You got a question?
Going from a 55-acre lake to the 100,000-acre impoundments that you're seeing that you go to on the tour, that's daunting. It really is. Even just the mindset of you can cover a 5,000-acre lake. You could probably do the whole lake if you wanted to. You probably should, but you could. You go to a Toledo Bend. You go to a Rayburn. You physically can't cover it all. No. Was there a learning curve on how you would strategize your practice?
Definitely. It started with picking an area, a big creek arm that might be 5,000 to 10,000 acres in itself. Picking that creek arm because I think that's what's going to be given that time of year, what I think they're going to be doing, what I research, right? Picking that creek arm and picking it apart. It's gone anywhere from that to running around like a chicken with my head cut off for 3 days, burning 100 gallons of fuel in 3 days, trying to look at the whole lake because I don't want to be missing something. Mm-hmm. So it evolves every tournament, if that makes any sense, or every season. And sometimes you just drive down a lake and you're like, that looks good. I'm going to pull over there. And you wind up finding something. I mean, that's how I did good on the James River in Virginia. I was there the year prior. First time ever on a tidal fishery. I drew, as a co-angler, I drew a local guy that was a younger kid who happened to be an absolute hammer. I don't remember what his name was. I think he finished second or third on the co-angler side. But I drew him and I said, hey, dude, I found fish here and I found fish here. They're like 10 miles apart. How do I run the tide? He's like, start here, work your way this way. I'm like, okay. And I'll tell you what, he was really, really great kid. He waxed my butt out of the back of the boat. That guy had 5 for 11 pounds and he had 3 for like 10 and a half. I mean, he did great. So I learned a lot and I paid attention and I asked him questions. So when we came back the next year, I kind of had a game plan working forward of what they were that I thought they should be. And they were kind of spawn and pre-spawn, even though you couldn't see them. And yeah, the tide didn't play as much of a factor because that whole, you can be on the winning spot at the wrong time and you don't even get a bite thing. That's my goal.
Yeah. That definitely plays on the James.
That's a great question, Thomas. That's where I was going next too, to be honest.
I've done it once or twice.
Yeah.
You mentioned something that really perked up in my head was the tube. I am in the Pennsylvania, Northern Virginia area. We have the Susquehanna, the Shenandoah, the upper, like all smallmouth waters. And I talk to river rats on a daily basis. If outside of my little community, nobody talks about the tube, is it just a lost thing to professional anglers? Do you guys use tubes a lot up north?
Yeah, I do. We do a lot, really for like flipping that grass. So we'll get the milfoil and whatnot, coontail, it'll be 6 to 10 foot. You'll get the pockets and stuff. So we'll take like a 3.5 or 4.5 inch tube. I'll go anywhere from a 5/16 to a 1 ounce weight on it for punching that grass. And though, typically we're using the 3.5 to like 4.5 inch flipping tubes for largemouth. But then when you're talking smallmouth, we'll go down to a 16th ounce tube head. And I mean, we got 2 inch, 2 3/4 inch tubes that you're just dragging those cold water smallmouth. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's still pretty popular, like Sturgeon Bay area.
Yeah.
But like you said, the Demiki rig, the live scoping, the drop shot has really kind of taken over. But yeah, there's still a fair amount of us that I own. I have black and yellow totes that are, I don't know, 3 foot wide by 2 foot tall. I have one that stays in my truck that is nothing but tubes.
Do you feel like it's still a player around the country?
It definitely is. It's one of those things that like Jason Christie. If you watch a lot of his videos, he does talk about it from time to time. Mm-hmm. That's one of his confident baits in the spring in Oklahoma is flipping that tube. It's in the springtime when it's cold. I like to go down in weight size, but I don't want something with a lot of action. I want something that glides when you flip it in there. I kind of want it to glide and settle. The Strike King Rodent is another one of my favorite early springtime baits. So that tube definitely plays.
It's just fascinating to me because you can't literally fish everything. And I know in pop culture, things has a 20-year cycle. And I feel like it's like the spinnerbait will just have its resurgence or a flat-sided crankbait. But the tube has just been that quiet thing that no one likes to talk about that's been here for 100 years, but it just kind of disappeared from the main fishing zeitgeist.
Yeah, a lot of guys don't talk about it. The biggest issue I have with it is I get comfortable for a year on how I rig it when I Texas rig it. I'll try a straight chain cook, and then I'll have a EWG, and then I had some weird not troll car, but eagle claw that had a little keeper on the back of it, and you'd pop it through, and the hook pointed in a really weird direction, and it actually worked really, really good. But you would buy a pack of 10, and one of them would be sharp enough to throw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't remember what the kind it was. So I kind of got away from that, even though I was comfortable with that. But yeah, the tubes are definitely a mainstay up here for us.
That's awesome. Brian, what was it like, like you said, 5th year on tour? What was it like mentally for you making that transition, coming down here and fishing new bodies of water? And like you said, bodies of water don't have grass in it like you're used to up there, besides being on a river.
My biggest thing and the biggest reason I wanted to do the opens and take it to the next level, some days I'm good enough to be here and most days I'm not, but I want to compete against people that are better than me. I have made numerous friends throughout the country, different techniques. I got one buddy from Arizona that is one of the most foremost experts I've ever met on like glide baits and swim baits and stuff like that. The knowledge he has, that's his cup of tea. I got a buddy from Louisiana that was all about frog fish and stuff like that. I want to compete against people that are better than me, and I love seeing new places. I'm not much for flying. I flew out of the country twice and wound up in the hospital both times, so I'll gladly drive anywhere. But I want to see new places. I want to see what's around the next corner, and why not compete while you're there?
So what do you think the biggest, for somebody that competes in your larger regional tournaments like the BFLs or, there's a couple of good team tournaments around here. I'm sure there's some bigger tournaments up, in your neck of the woods. What's the biggest transition other than, the travel and the bigger fields? What's the measuring stick? When do you say, okay, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to go try this? And then what were, some of the biggest obstacles that you ran into when you made that transition going from, those local tournaments to those bigger tournaments?
I think when you're ready to go, when you're ready to branch out and try, if you're at your local level, like you said, if you're fishing that BFL that's on your lake, and I'm not talking about like you've got one specific lake.
Yeah.
Every time it comes there, you win. But
there's a lot of ringers in the BFL.
if you can do pretty well in that general area that you can compete, maybe you can compete and you didn't get a full 2 or 3 days of practice. You only got a day or two. You can adapt. You're pretty diverse. You can flip brush. You can drag a drop shot on St. Lawrence for smallmouth. You can crank on Rayburn or Toledo Bend. You can top water on the James. Frog and fishing's awesome down there. You got to be diverse, and it's the biggest thing. Probably is the biggest hurdle is probably financial wise, because you don't. I'm a tackle hoarder. Like I have a shop, and like anybody that travels with me or knows me knows that they call me before they go to the tackle shop, because I probably got right, and I've got a whole wall of tackle. Financially, you can't be set that you can go. Don't ever go into the tournament saying, I got to have a check here, or I'm not going to make it home, or I'm not going to make it to the next tournament. Go there with the confidence that you can, you can risk it running 50 miles because you think you got the winning fish, and not having to stay close to the ramp just to try to cast a check so you can get home. So
why the Opens versus like the Toyota Series or other things?
I'll be 100% honest with you. I was against the split when it took place in 2019. And I mean, those guys left. They had their reasonings. I wasn't a part of that. Obviously, I can't speak on theirs, but I didn't like what I saw over there. And I've always been a fan of Bass and been a member and had the magazine growing up as a kid. And remember Bob Cobb on Sunday mornings with the 1 hour program. I'll be honest with you, I don't want to give Boyd Duckett any of my money.
No, you're the second person that said that.
Yeah, I don't. I think the roads were paved with gold and silver, and he promised everybody the world. And I've talked to several people that have come back to Bass. Cliff Pace, Ish Monroe, had conversations with those guys, and they weren't fans of over there. Let's put it that way.
That's a great way to transition to my next thing. 2025, guys. We're 2 months, a month and a half away from 2025. And like Brian was talking about there, with the reduction in the field in the Major League Fishing, the Pro Series side of it, there's going to be an influx of anglers, and they're spread out. I got a list coming for the new NPFL anglers that have signed up for this year, and I heard it's a bunch of big names in that as well. But there's going to be a lot of big names that are fishing the Open Series in 2025. And we're not talking about, we're talking about big-time pro anglers that just didn't make the cut.
There was a lot this year, too.
What's that?
There was a lot in 2024 that were there, too.
Yeah.
Pro guys.
So it's going to get bigger. And, all these guys are trying to qualify. They're all trying to get the top 10 to get back to the Elite Series that didn't have the special card key that they needed to get back into Elite Series, like Mr. Randy Howe. Man, what's the mindset going into 2025, brother? I mean, you're going to – it's almost a whole new field. It is.
And like I told you before, I'm here because I want to compete against people that are better than me. So I welcome it. They sleep flat on their back and they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like me. Most days, yeah, this is what they do for a living. So probably most days they can outfish me. But when I have time to focus, hunker down, I can outfish them. So I welcome it. I like it. I like a challenge.
You just heard it, man. Yeah, like I said, 2025. I mean, I think it's. I don't think everybody signed up for the elites or for the opens to try to get into the elites, but a lot of them did split, and a lot of new anglers are coming to the NPFL scene in 2025, and I want to say they'll have almost a complete field. I mean, I know they're kind of close this year, but I think next year will be a complete field for the NPFL with a $100,000 payout, the NPFL championship that they're having. So it's a lot of great things happening over there. You said earlier about, just fishing the opens. Have you ever thought about fishing the NPFL series as well? Or, what does the schedule look like for you in 2025, Brian?
So 2025, they went away from the all 9 to be EQ angler. So now you can fish Division 1,
right?
4 tournaments Division 1, 4 tournaments Division 2. So I'm going to do just Division 2. I've got history. And been to Rayburn multiple times, been to Kentucky multiple times, in Leech Lake multiple times. Never been in Norfolk, but that'll be one kind of oddball out. and hopefully my wife and I are building a house in the spring. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise that they knocked it down to only those 4 tournaments. So with the sponsorship money that I do have, my year will be darn near paid for. So that'd be kind of a cool feeling. So I can go in free of worrying about making a check. And, last year I traveled for the Bass Nation qualifier and then the national championship. I was on the road for 11 weeks last year for tournaments, and that's a lot.
So, they've had the, changes to the format for the past couple of years. What do you think about it when they went to, okay, if you're going to qualify, you've got to fish all 9?
I think it was a good idea. So everybody kept saying, you took the working man out of it. You took the working man out of it. And I do understand that to a certain point. I am a working man. I work 7 days a week when I'm not on the water fishing. We've got 5 children, all between middle school and high school ages. And I've got the responsibility of all of my guys and, making sure that their families are fed, keeping work. So I get it. But at the same point in time, if you couldn't take 9 weeks off this year to qualify, how are you going to take 9 weeks off next year when you made it and you had to fish all of the Elite Series? And the biggest thing that everybody doesn't understand is just because you win a tournament or just because you made the Elites, the sponsors don't come ringing and knocking on your door.
Yes.
Kyle Norsetter, for instance, this will be his 3rd year on the Elites. He's a friend of mine, lives a few minutes from the house here. Talked to him quite a bit. He qualified in 2022 through the last tournament in Rayburn. Had a phenomenal 3-day tournament and wound up qualifying. And I know for a fact how hard he works just to find enough sponsors. And I mean, he very creative marketing ideas for different things for, gas sponsors for this tournament, just to get whatever he can out of it. How hard he had to work to get to where he's at and get the sponsors he did. Nobody came knocking. Nobody came ringing.
What does he think of the new entry fees?
I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it yet. I know some guys.
What do you think
really
about it?
About it, and some guys. So here's my hope on that is what the rumblings that I've heard and kind of what I foresee or what I hope I foresee is, Bass legitimized it. Hey, no entry fees. This is where we are year 1. At the end of year 1, let's see how it goes. Hopefully we can bring in some more sponsor money, some more things. We'll crunch the numbers. If we can add to the payouts moving forward, we're going to increase them down the field. Hopefully.
Like Boyd said.
On my butt, but I don't know.
Now, what do you think about the change? I know you haven't fished it, but what do you think about the format change this year?
I like it. I think it's so there's the problem is there's so many guys that sign up for the EQs. And I think we started with like 182 or 172.
Yeah, it was
by the
almost
time we got
200 last
three-quarters
year.
way through the year, we're at like 100. Like, oh, mathematically, I'm not in it, so they drop,
Yeah.
right? And that's a spot that maybe somebody else could have had if they didn't intend on finishing the season. So I like the fact that you have to qualify in the top 50 to move on. The only part I don't like about the new, what they're calling the EQ series and those last 3 tournaments, is it's open to all the elite guys. Which I wouldn't blame the elite guy at all. For instance, Kyle, I talked to Northsetter about it, and he's like, well, heck yeah. He goes, that extended my season by a couple months. There's nothing to fish around here in the wintertime. Oh, I can do that. I totally get it. I would too if I was in his situation. But I feel like it should be, and it's not a matter of competing against them, because to my understanding, the Elite Series guys, their points don't count. So they would just skip him in points. So if I got first, I'd get the 200 points. If an elite guy got second, his wouldn't matter. So then the guy in third place would get 199. But I just feel like focus on the EQ guys that paid that money and that worked that hard to get there. Make it about them and not necessarily the elites, And I, like I said, I do get it both directions, but a lot of us guys are trying to build our platform, trying to build our brand, trying to, get our name out there in the market and in the industry so that we can maybe make a run at this for a career.
Yeah, because like, and again, I think it's wrong because it's not, the analogy has been is like, well, sometimes a professional pitcher will go down to AAA to work things out. It's like they're not doing that. They're going down to AAA to earn a paycheck to get extra money.
Yeah.
They're poaching. It's plain and simple. And at some point, that does have to stop. You need to make a bubble because we think it would be repulsive if they did that and poached a college tournament and they'll do a BFL and they'll do like, at what level do we say like, no, this is for the guys that truly need that win? Because I'll pick on Ike because he's local. If Ike got a win, it doesn't matter. But if you got that win and you were second place, that changes a lot of things for you. Yep. And I don't like the Neanderthal because like, well, you just beat the field who's in front of you. It's like, it's not that fact because there's a luck proponent there that at any day could be somebody's a chance to win.
Yep.
I want to throw my opinion. I don't think they really care about the money. I think they do. I think a lot of them is that free, which it is now, but it was, it's free the whole year. But the free entry into the Classic.
Well,
because if you do win it, you got the free.
Yeah, which is money.
Which is money on the back end. So it's kind of it's one of them things where you start a brand new business, you're going to lose for about a month, and then you hope to make money. This is where, if we win, we make a little money. It's great, but we really want to take home the trophy to fish the Classic because we sucked the whole year, and this is a way we can get in.
Which helps with the sponsors,
Correct.
Which helps with your bank account. I mean, it
which,
all
correct.
Yeah, which also
money.
Also to get that entry into the Classic, you hold up a big fat check. So
yeah,
I don't think it's that fat for the Opens. What's that Open win pay now?
On a full field, about 50,000.
50,000.
Less
that's
than
pretty.
Toyota.
That's pretty daggone good.
But it's still it's the publicity. It helps you with your sponsors. It's all that stuff. And again, I've had friends that came close to winning, then a pro beat them out, and I get it. They blah blah blah. But one of them's not fishing anymore because he did go into debt. And it's like, so if that person didn't poach the tournament, would he still be fishing? Would that have been his big break? You never know in the craziness of life. And so, yeah, I would really think it'd be a chivalristic thing for Bass or Boyd or MPFL to say like, yeah, this grooming system, we have this farm system is just for the up and comers to have their chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. That would be ideal. And and then from the standpoint of being the elite guy, I get it. Like, hey, you got another opportunity to make the Classic. You got an opportunity to fish to extend your season more.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, I get it. I get it from both perspectives. But yeah, being on the lower tier, hopefully working my way to the upper tier, I would definitely like to see it, like you said, stay within that region or within that class of guys.
Now, once he makes it next year, though, he'll be like, well, I don't know. I like me.
Forget everything I said. I changed my
mind. And circling back to something that you said earlier about, if you're fishing paycheck to paycheck, you can't fish mentally clean and make good decisions. Yeah. But then there's this other thing called just pride in your home, and you're going to Leech Lake. How do you feel about that? Because it's not about the money, but you also don't want to probably suck on your home body of water. Is there added pressure on that one specifically?
There was, and it was especially this year on the Mississippi River at La Crosse. We could fish pools 8, 9, and 10. I have spent an inordinate amount of time on pool 9. Like, I know that place like the local fishermen do. And I saw in practice, honestly, what I needed to win. The barge traffic did not cooperate at all on day one. I only got 45 minutes on my fish. I was sitting in 20th. And then, after day 2, actually, I missed 45th place, which was a $4,000 paycheck. I missed it by 2 ounces. I was the first guy out. Yeah, same with Leech Lake. Like, I had a really good day 1. I was sitting in the 40s after day 1. And day 2, I did not. I tried to fish behind myself and something changed and I could not figure it out. And then panic mode. And I had all these little sneaky hole, like, hey, I got one boulder over here and I physically saw 3-4 pound smallmouth sitting out of my eyeballs. Yeah. I guarantee you nobody else found it. Well, those fish decided not to hang out there that day. You know what I mean? I had this one dock out of 100 that had a school of fish on it. Well, they weren't on that one, and they weren't 5 docks either direction either. So,
Geek, that just brings so much heat into what Jake from the Texas department said about boat pressure, not just forward-facing sonar. Like, they know when a BFL or a Toyota or a Bass Open hits their lake. They freaking know it.
Oh, 100%. Like you saw, I think it was, you talked about Cherokee earlier with the Demiki rig. We were there a couple years ago, and the first day of the tournament was a wind day. And, judging by the local tournaments that were there that weekend, what the weights and stuff were, we had that wind day, so it was off day. So the lake got zero pressure for a day. And then the tournament started, and I came in with I don't know what I had, 14.5 pounds. And I'm thinking, okay, judging by what everybody else had from this weekend, I should be top 50. Yeah, I was in 98th place or something like that. Because that rest, and it just boom. Same thing with Leech Lake this year. We had that first day was a wind day. And it was off, and that rest, it changes the lake. It's unbelievable.
That's something that, the tournament that, the Ionic Champions Invitational, they only gave them one day of practice. And, we talked about it on here a lot. I think that, would be incredible. I also think that goes back, for the people that don't like, are, not necessarily all for the whole scoping thing. I think if you give somebody one day of practice, it kind of mitigates any sort of. I don't believe it gives anybody an advantage. I think that's a false narrative, but I think it really A, it saves the anglers money. B, it saves them time, and C, I think it evens the field out, even if you have some guys that are local on there.
Yep.
Something else I'd add that Bass has experimented with, and the BBT did in years past, is why do we have to fish on the weekends? Go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or just fish in the middle of the week when literally no one is there. I adore when I wake up on Monday morning. I hate my job. My wife's annoying me, but I know Bass had a postponement to the last days on a Monday. Yeah. So as a fan, I enjoy the hell of being able to binge it at work.
Yep.
And that was actually. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
Oh, I was just gonna say I know that's been talked about with various podcasts and different people in the industry, but I'm not sure why they don't. That would be awesome though. I'd be for that.
Well, I understand it at the lower levels, because everybody's working.
Yeah.
But the truth is though, Carter, we had, I've got the two Brians, like y'all said earlier. I've got to resort to the last names now. But, we had this conversation with Greg Hackney, and, I was talking about my analytics. I can go in and show you, Monday is one of the hottest days. Monday through Thursday is by far when the most audience are on there because everybody's at work, at school, and they're doing everything they shouldn't be doing, right? They're watching fishing. But Friday, you're either already taking a day off to go practice or fish, or you're rigging. Saturday and then Sunday, if you're going to church, you're going to church, and then you're going home, and then you're might be getting an afternoon fishing in, and then by 7-8 o'clock, it kind of starts peaking up on a Sunday. You're really missing, to me, the pros. They're the tournament organizations. They're missing the peak times.
Yeah,
when the outdoorsmen are not outdoors.
and there's two things I think you can blame for this. For one, it's the TV deals you sign with FX, but two, I'm also on the board for a social media startup that I'm just helping them out, giving them some business advice. And they got guys that used to be in Hollywood, and they're like, this is just how things are done. And there's this weird, this is just how it's done. Of you always put a fishing show on at 6 a.m. on a Saturday because we've done it since the 1930s, and it's primitive. And you got to wake up to why are you putting stuff on the weekend when nobody's going to be sitting there watching it? But it's just that's how it's always been. So therefore, you do it.
Yeah,
we had a tournament series here. Well, it wasn't really here. It's up in Maryland, in your area, if I remember correctly, Thomas, and. It was a big payout. It was a big entry, and it was a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday tournament. It only made one season, by the way, guys. But it was just, it was because the payout was so big, you don't want to give someone a disadvantage of competing against the weekend angler when you're paying out $50,000 guaranteed.
But when you can do it, like the Elite 70s, I know a couple of times Camp would have their tournaments on a Friday. You didn't have to deal with boat pressure. If you can do it as a tournament director, it makes a lot of things easier.
People are so worried. I think they're too worried that we have a lot in our area where, it's a jackpot tournament on the weekend. It's $100. It's a team event. It's $100. Well, I'm sorry, dude. Charge $500.
Yeah.
Let's make it worth their effort. So everybody's so scared to raise that price. Where if they hit that sweet spot, make it affordable. Two guys, $500. you can swing that for a Saturday tournament, right? So now we're going to make it worth our while. But then they're also so worried about, well, if we don't do it on Saturday or Sunday, then nobody's going to show up because everybody's going to, again, make it marketable. And for the right dollar amount, I'll take a day off work to take my chances with that.
It always comes down to the money and the dollar amount, and they won't bitch if the check clears. Why do the BFLs suck? It's not the co-anglers. It's not forward-facing sonar. It's not Boyd. It's the prizes suck. The money sucks. If you pay me, I will show up.
Yep.
I ain't gonna lie. With my tournament series, if I could run it on a Friday and have the weekend to myself, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Well, the weekend, like I said, the local at the local level, it would be suicide. You'd never get a turnout for it. I mean, it really would.
Yeah.
I mean, you would never get a turnout for it because most people are working Monday through Friday, and that's, like I said, that's why I mean, I can show them the stats, and if watch time is what Bass and MLF are really concerned about, if they're worried about eyes, then how are you so stupid as to not be able to know your own audience and when they're online? I mean, come on. No, I don't even think it's the right thing to do for the Opens or the Toyotas, because you do have guys who are, they're working men. Those are working men everyday series. I mean, you're even at the MPFL level. I mean, you got to question them. Those guys are working men too, and they bill it that way, but they're still there for the entire daggone week practicing.
Yeah, and to me, if you're fishing an Open or if you're fishing a Toyota Series, especially let's say the Opens, you've cashed, you've written the check, you're going to be there and put the time in. It comes down to the other part of it, which is just how you're viewed by locals and just regular pleasure boaters. If there was this massive push by tournament bass fishing to say, our tournaments will never be on the weekends anymore. It's a Monday through Friday, let's say. That completely takes the ammo out of people's guns that says, well, tournament fishing is ruining my lake. It's too busy. It's like, well, how? Why are you fishing on a Monday? Are you retired? Like, we're leaving you the weekend. It's the thing that Bass and Major League Fishing suck at is understanding their optics. They absolutely suck at this. The MPFL is great. I think they have a great marketing team. They're really, really good at this, but they don't understand optics for so many things. That's such an easy win to say, like, if you guys hate us being here, this is how we're going to do it right here. And you completely defuse their argument.
And then if they really want to put out a Saturday show for sake of tradition, I mean, let's say you fish, you practice Monday or Monday and Tuesday, and then you've got a 2-day tournament, or you want to go with a 3-day tournament. I mean, you get a couple of editors, and I'm sure they're paying for them. Oh. I mean, if they can't push out a good edited version of the tournament in 2 days, then you should fire them. I'm just going to tell you, you should fire them. They could get it out Sunday morning, just like, when I set my underoos, my Supermans or Batmans, watching Bill Dance, Roland Martin, and,
Hank Parker
and, all those guys. And then, we went to WWE, and then we went to NASCAR, I mean, come on now. I mean, with the technology of the day, I mean, you can pump out a 30-minute hour show. I mean, hey, go get Jacob Wheeler's editor. He can probably do it by himself. I mean, he does it for them.
Yeah. The Open schedule is it's quite a diverse schedule, and they kind of do play towards some of that on the Opens. And I know Brian can encounter this. Some of the events last year, I know, were like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday event.
Yep.
And it was just a difference. It's almost like a different schedule for different lakes. And I guess, they voted on it, based on where they were going. And it might have had to do something with the boat traffic. I really don't know. Or just something that Bass worked out with the local area that they were going to. But they did have it was never really a set Friday, Saturday, and Sunday tournament in 2024.
Yeah. No, and then we do there's 1 or 2 this year that are going to be a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday too. And and I don't know if it's
maybe those are test
if it's part of the the host city saying, hey, this is when we'll have you, or if it's, hey, if we run this tournament this time, then we can, because they got to take the stage, the employees, everybody, they got to go the next to the college, to the high school, to the elites, to the opens. So I don't know if it's a timing thing on their end or how or why all exactly it is that way. But yeah, there's a couple of them this year too that are that way.
Fascinating stuff. Cool.
That's good stuff.
And they did finally. We actually got right at the end of the season there. August? We got a text we could vote. They changed because we've all been complaining that 5 days is too many days of practice. Because the lake, I mean, you might as well not even practice till the third and the fourth and the fifth day, because anything you found the first 3 days, everybody already throttled the bejeebers out of
them. 200 boats, every single bass on the lake.
We've got
its face.
Practice will be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, off day Wednesday. We could vote on that, or we could vote on Monday, Tuesday, half a day Wednesday practice, and then start Thursday. But which I voted for, because I'd rather just get a sniff of what's going on and develop it throughout the day in the tournament. Yeah. We seem to do better then, and I could save one night on travel expenses. But which I'm fine. I'm glad they did something. It's back to 28 days off limits. So I'm glad they did something. They are listening and they are trying.
Because we've had that conversation here many times about, like Geekin have said, lowering the number of days for practice. Because being a professional angler, that's the whole thing behind it is, most anglers are practicing while they're fishing. Mm-hmm. They know what the cut's going to be. They've watched all the videos. They've looked at past results. And they say, I need X amount of pounds to continue to the next day. And so they just went out and practiced after they got X amount of pounds.
Yep.
And, put the next day together and then the next day together. Because like you said, it's always changing each and every day. We know that. But the anglers are starting to drop off. And then you're down to whatever, the top 25 or whatever go for the final day. So, I mean, I like that. I really do. I think, like Geek said earlier, 1 day, 2 days, that's all you need. Let the lake lay. Go tie tackle. Go out with the family, and then fish the tournament for 3 days. Tell them leave you alone. You got to concentrate. That's how I make my money.
Well, I don't remember who it was we spoke with, but they even told us. They said, "Look, what you normally find in practice is almost never what you end up winning with. Those locations and those spots on a tournament."
Yep.
So,
I know that's and that can for instance, this year Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma, very diverse fishery, really fits my style. Has kicked my butt 2 times I've been there now. Like the first day of practice, the water was in the bushes and it was forecasted to fall out almost 2.5, 3 feet. So the first day of practice, I'm like, you know what? None of this is going to be relevant, so I'm going to spend half a day flipping bushes because I love flipping bushes, and I would flip everyone I could find because it wasn't going to make a difference in 5 days. The water, those were going to be dry land. So we had fun for half a day, and then we got serious about it.
What was the hardest fishery that you went to that was just like it just perplexed you?
Upper Chesapeake. In the fall.
Yeah, that's about right.
I never thought that we were there 2 years ago. It's in the fall, and from what I understand, it's great, like April, May kind of area. Yeah. So we go there, and I talked to one guy, and he's like, "Hey, this is down by the, I don't know, like 30 miles south or whatever. There's a couple of big creeks down there or whatever.
Gunpowder Dundee. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Those." And he's like, "Yeah, focus on that area." I'm like, "Okay." So I drive all the way down there and fish and this and that, and kind of found some fish. Got a really good flipping bite on a fighting frog with a big catfish. Caught like 5 and 4 casts, or 4 and 5 casts, like 15 pounders. But yeah, I think we had one decent day of practice down there, where we had like maybe 8 bites. But other than that, I think I caught like 7 fish in 5 days.
Yeah, that place can be brutal.
That year, I guess the salt line was way north because the water was low or something.
Yeah.
If I'm driving down the middle of the thing there, and all of a sudden there's these buoys everywhere. Well, I come from there's buoys. That means there's a rock pile or a slow and awake or a channel. Yeah, they were the crab pots everywhere.
Yeah.
There's not a line that connects them between them horizontally, which is a good thing because I'd had so much wound up. I stop. I'm on the middle. What is this?
That's funny.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that place is an interesting mistress for sure.
Yeah.
All right, better wrap this up, man. Geek, you got another question, my brother?
No, man. I think he's covered everything on my side of things. It's been a pretty interesting conversation. I
It's
appreciate
been a great conversation. Thomas?
I think that's everything. Yeah, I think we covered it all.
All right, B. Before you go, man, plug some sponsors, where they can follow you, where they can follow the journey in 2025.
Absolutely. We've got, as you can tell, I'm with Miller Tech Batteries. Those guys are great. Some of the best batteries
Good
I've
people.
ever used.
Good people.
Yeah, they're not only is their product amazing, their customer service. When you can call a guy on a Saturday because you've got an issue, and he says, "Hold on a minute, let me get off the ladder. I'm working on my house," and he stops what he's doing. Sean stops to help you out. Dude, top-notch people. Top-notch product, top-notch people. Chris Kingery from 44 Tackle. They've got an awesome tackle shop down there in Florida there, just south of the Harris chain. He's got a good online presence, too. You can order everything. Don't forget out there in your area, Feel the Pain. Caleb Payne, Feel the Pain, bait and tackle out there. He's got a really cool tackle shop in Virginia, just south of Richmond. Hopefully he doesn't. I don't know exactly where it's at. He doesn't get mad at me. But, yeah, we've been Arc Rods and Reels. Been with them for about 3.5 years now. Got their new spinning reels this year. Buttery, man, those are nice. Been running a Falcon boat since 2020. I'm on my third one. Absolutely love them. Been very happy with them. Great group of people. So, and of course, Pulse Builders, my company, and my amazing wife standing over here. She puts up with me and all the madness and the highs and the lows of fishing.
And there's going to be some highs and lows, I'll tell you that.
Mama said there'll be days like this.
That's what she said. 110% right there. All right, man. Thank you, brother, for coming on. Guys, I'm not sure what our plans are for next week. You all know the show drops on Monday morning, and we have a holiday next week. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. So happy Thanksgiving. I hope you guys all enjoy your time off with friends and family.
Nice.
It's crazy. The year has rolled, man. I'm not lying. Where has it gone? It really has. It's been busy as crap, but it's been great. So, but guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of it. Make sure you check out Basscast Radio wherever you get your podcast. Also, Basscast Radio on YouTube. Please hit the subscribe button and the follow button, notification button. So you hit the bell so that way you get notified every Monday morning at 5 a.m. when we premiere a new episode of Basscast Radio. And don't forget about before the first cast, my boy Calvin's been dropping some good stuff. He dropped one last week. It's with a local guide, and they dropped some great November tips. So we drop a show on Mondays and Fridays at 5 a.m. So thanks for being a part of the show. We'll see you all next week right here or the week after on Basscast Radio.
Thanks, guys.